Oh, this looks wonderful.
People ask me all the time, when did the idea of Ren and Stimpy come about? I used to draw this retarded cat. He was somewhat influenced by the Bob Clampett cats in a cartoon called Gruesome Twosome, which was a Tweety Bird cartoon. And they had these really cool-looking cats with big bulbous noses. And it was a cartoon done in the mid-'40s, but it was a throwback to 30s cartoons when everybody had big bulbous noses with a shine on them. And I thought that was a really cool style. Around that same time, I found this postcard of a Chihuahua with a sweater on. It's a very funny picture because here's this psychotic-looking monster in a cute sweater. And that just right away was a concept in my head that I thought was hilarious. I thought, what a great character that would be. So I used to draw caricatures of this insane Chihuahua. And then I would do this Peter Lorre voice and I'd act him out. I'm here to murder your baby. Joel Feiner, who I worked with, he suggested one day, why don't you put that Chihuahua character with your cat character? And I thought, okay, that's a good idea. While I was working for all the crummy studios in LA in the 80s, doing shows that I hated and that everyone that worked on hated, I kept having this dream that someday I would sell something of my own, which was insane at the time. Animation wasn't done like that in the 1970s and the 1980s.
We want a new toy!
Well, let's have a look. It's Log for Girls.
They just had the weirdest way of going about deciding what to make a cartoon about. One way was a toy company would say, we're making this ugly toy here, and you have to make a cartoon series about it. But that was the environment that I still believe that I'm going to sell my weird ideas. And Ren and Stimpy was a weird damn idea, and I had even weirder ideas than that. Took about 9 years to sell it. And luckily for me, and for the whole industry, Nickelodeon was very open to what they thought was a new concept, the creator-driven cartoon. And they promoted the hell out of this idea, creator-driven cartoons, cartoons actually made by cartoonists, as if this was some new amazing invention. Musician-driven music, let's have that.
There's a new face in Hollywood today. It's fresh, it's redundant. Let's give him a warm welcome because his whole career depends on this next important message.
So Ren and Stimpy sold, and all of a sudden creator-driven cartoons are everywhere.
I begged John to be on it. I was a director on Tiny Toons at Warner Brothers, and but you know, the real action was happening at Spumco with John. It was just eye-opening, a shocking experience that John was so far ahead of everybody else in the business.
Let's call him Old Wrinkly Cock. We just tried all kinds of things. Everybody would pitch in gags. You didn't have to be a storyboard artist to pitch in gags or a writer. If we thought of jokes along the way, we'd add them. Just every step of the way, we would add jokes.
Excuse me, Ren. It's time
I was
for
in
my-
layout, which is not normally considered a creative stage. And for John, he considered it one of the most creative stages. John comes from a sort of layout background.
There's no stage of the production where you're not allowed to be creative in a Spumco cartoon, unlike most cartoons.
You could have a scene refused if it just lacked magic. You're going, but John, this is, I thought this is what you asked for. Yeah, but it's not there. It doesn't grab me. It's not exciting. You know, I need something with excitement. You know, what are you giving me this for? But I'll tell you, it was wonderful to be at a studio which had such high standards.
They think I'm crazy, but I know better. It is not I who am crazy. It is I who am mad. Didn't you hear him? Didn't you see the crowds? Oh, my beloved ice cream bar. How I love to lick your creamy center. Ow!
Ren's personality started as just basically a ripoff of Peter Lorre. I just loved Peter Lorre. He was a great actor and a funny actor. He's not supposed to be funny, but he is funny. But he's also brilliant. He's very subtle and extreme at the same time. I love characters who are extreme yet subtle at the same time.
Oh, no!
They make broad gestures and things like that. If you look at the expressions they're doing, and when they move from one expression to the next, there's a million little things going on.
No, you don't. You can't take it from me now. I've had this ice cream bar since I was a child. People always trying to take it from me. Why won't they leave me alone?
all this extra stuff, extra coloring that flavors what's going on. So it's not just a generic statement of excitement.
John has a philosophy of never repeating a drawing, never repeating a gag. As a matter of fact, if you do a real nice drawing for him that just happens to duplicate something that's been done before, he'll throw it out.
Every retarded character in cartoon history pretty much had the same voice. Which way did he go, George? Which way did he go? And that's the instinct. You've heard that so many times. You get sucked into the cliches.
Don't you know cartoons will ruin your mind? Look what it's done to your brain.
I didn't want Stimpy to have that voice, but I couldn't think of another voice that would work for him. So I hired Billy West. I knew I wanted Billy West as part of the show because he had worked on the Beanie and Cecil show with me, and he was this great impressionist, and he did all these funny voices. So I'm sure he tried the Which Way Did He Go, George type of voice, and I don't remember what other voices. I think I just had him wing a bunch of voices. Nothing seemed to be clicking. And then I remembered he did a voice, I don't know what kind of character it was a weasel or something, for Beanie and Cecil, and he did Larry Fine's voice from the Three Stooges. And I thought that was amazing that somebody could do Larry Fine's voice.
One day he said, well, I'm thinking of two characters that have, one has a voice like Peter Lorre, the other has a voice like Larry Fine. And I remember thinking, oh, poor John, he's lost it. He was good up till now, but they exist in two different worlds. You can't make that work together. And I gave John some advice. John, from a friend, it'll never work.
I don't know why it worked, but it sounded hilarious that he had that personality with a man's voice. And as we wrote stories with Stimpy and as Billy did more episodes, he started adding more color to the voice, just like I was adding to Ren. He'd bring some more sympathy to the voice and more subtleties and things like that. And then it evolved away from Larry Fine. Sometimes it would evolve too far away from Larry Fine. And it became like too much like a little kid. And I'd have to keep pulling Billy back and saying, Billy, remember Larry. Start from Larry. Get that man sound again, because that makes the sympathy even funnier. I teamed him with Ren. The first thing I used to say about him was that he only had one nerve ending, and you had to hit it really hard for him to feel anything. And when he did feel something, he liked it.
You fat, bloated idiot! You worm!
And you hit him with a baseball bat or something, and if he managed to feel it, he would be in love with you. Then he started to evolve as we wrote the stories. You know, he's ambitious. He doesn't know he's an idiot.
Gritty Kitty ain't so pretty, but it's really thick.
He writes a poem, a Gritty Kitty litter poem, just so bad. And I actually know a guy like this, a guy who's very ambitious, but he's not the shiniest apple on the tree, you know? But boy, he's gonna run the world one day.
I may not be the president, I may not be the Pope, but as long as I have Gritty Kitty, I shall never mope.
Nowadays, things tend to be super generic. Happy is, sad is, and that's it. You know, they might have perplexed. Well, there's a million versions of happy and sad and perplexed, and then there's all these other kinds of emotions that don't have labels, but you can draw them.
Don't touch it! It's the history eraser button, you fool!
So what'll happen?
That's just it.
We don't know.
He would come up with these expressions that were absolutely unique. They were all hyphenated expressions. Nobody was just mad or sad or angry. You had bemused, whimsical, sad.
I urge my artists all the time to never draw an expression that they've drawn before. I say, you're not allowed. If I've seen that expression before, erase it.
He will not repeat himself. And the one way to get into a lot of trouble if you're working at Spumco is to repeat things that have been done before. You must innovate. There were many times when I would come up with something and I'd say, oh, this is really good. Even John will have to admit that I did better than he would, with this. And I'd bring it into him and I'd put it under him. He would just stare at it. And he would say, why didn't you do this? And with no pre-thought, he would just draw something that will one day be in the Louvre, no doubt.
People write me all the time and ask me whether Ren and Stimpy are gay. Gay couples love Ren and Stimpy, and they tell me they identify with their trials and how they get into big fights all the time, and then they end up in this act again together, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't know whether they're gay or not. That's their own business. I go back to the old tradition of comedy, where you work on the personalities of the characters, and then just put them in any situation that you want. That's what I like about Ren and Stimpy, is the personalities are strong enough that you can just do any type of story we can come up with, they'll work in.
That, combined with the gross jokes and stuff like that, is what made it work.